And everything happens for a reason. This is my fourth time recording this, and this is my third time explaining that I've already said these things before and giggling about it. And at this point, if I do it again, I do it again. You know? So I'm just gonna release that, and all of this is funny because it's gonna pertain to like everything that I'm talking about. But I just had to get that out of the way. I don't really know what version I'll end up posting. Maybe it'll take me 6 times. Um, I don't know, because I have gotten all of my equipment and all the things that I need, and the last thing that I needed was a camera. And I put that off because I was like, well, I have $1,000 new iPhone, so that should suffice for a little bit. Um, and it is like overheating and not having a good time. So, and just stopping. So, I'm going to get a camera probably tonight and try and do this on my iPhone. All right. Hello, it's me, and I'm back, and I'm happy to be here for the fourth time. I am really excited. I recorded my first video back in June and had full plans for my podcast to kind of start almost immediately. And thanks to astrology, I did slow down and pause and take some time pretty much the whole summer. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I am so grateful that I did, and I can actually see where it really did benefit me. And now I'm at the point where any more waiting would be prolonging. So I think I'm at that perfect balance of taking time and also doing what I need to do. So, yeah, I'm happy to be back. I was about to start putting podcast stuff out, and then I looked at my calendar and realized that there was a Mercury retrograde. And I study astrology, I have for a really long time, and I don't let it define what I do, but I do know what the energetic patterns look like, and I have lived through a lot of them. And I looked at that, and it was happening in an area where of my chart that really focused on art and communication and being seen, which is all what this is. So I was like, that is definitely a sign to sit back and reflect and see if there are some things that need to be changed before moving forward. And now I clearly see that there was some. And because I do walk that line of like perfectionism and not wanting to release anything until it's perfect and it's urgent, you need to put it out right now or you're going to lose time because you've already wasted time. So because I do navigate that axis a lot, I was just really confused on like what was what. And I think that I learned a lot in that time of pause to kind of like be able to tell which is which and learn how to walk that line and that balance a little bit better. Because even just the name, which is something that really changed a lot. I originally, when I had this idea, was like, okay, well, I'm going to call it On My Own, because it was during a time when I was moving into my first solo apartment and doing so many things on my own and traveling on my own and doing a lot of things that can be scary to do on your own. And it was around my birthday, and I had this idea that I had been wanting to do for a minute of like a sad crying birthday photo shoot, because every year it's chaos. And I was like, okay, that's a perfect funny little podcast cover. And I really kind of saw it, and I was like, that's it. And yeah, as soon as like right before the retrograde hit, I realized that it needed to kind of pivot. And I like made an Instagram account with the name and posted so that I couldn't change. You can always change your mind, but I was like, I'm going to go ahead and put that out so that I don't start like overthinking that in this time of reflection. And so I did that, and then really sat and didn't do a lot of like active work. It was more so just kind of coming back to myself and just really getting some shit figured out. I'm in a very like transitional time, and so it really felt good to kind of disconnect and know that I was going to come back to the podcast, but that I was just going to kind of take the summer and connect with myself, so that whenever I did come back on here and start this and start busting it out every week, that I felt really connected and grounded in that. Yeah, so that changed, and I feel good with the past like 24 hours. It was like everything finally started clicking, and I was like, oh, okay, no, this is what it's supposed to look like, and this is like kind of what it's supposed to encompass, because on my own was cool, and I do think that that would encompass a lot of what I'm doing, but I wanted whatever topic I had or whatever I wanted to do, I want it to be able to expand with whatever name I give it. And I do have an issue with being so undefinable that it limits me. And I hate definition, and I hate being like, I am a blank, or I am this, or this project is that. And so much so that it does put me in kind of like a paralysis sometimes, because I can't make decisions, or nothing is perfect enough. And I did not want to stay stuck in that. So I wanted to just go ahead and like hit send on the name whenever I thought of it, because it did feel right. And it's expansive, and I can always change or start a new project at any point in time, but that does feel really good, and I'm rolling with it right now. And I think that it really just kind of encaptures this part of myself, because I also have an issue with this perfectionism ideal of like, when I start a project, it has to encompass everything about me and all of my dreams and my passions and my creativeness and all of the ideas that I have. And that is just not the case. But, love and respect to that obsessive idea. But there's going to be so many different projects and things that I do and avenues that I explore. And this does not have to cover all of them. And that also put me in a huge state of paralysis, because I was like, well, I have to hit this point and this point and this point, and I can't hide this part of myself. But if I do this, does this mean that I'm not this, or does this brand me as this, or this type of person that says, and I can't I can't I can't with that. I would go down that rabbit hole just over and over and over again, and my Virgo moon constantly is wanting to do that, of which I will also expand on later. And now that I have anxiety, I will be checking every 5 minutes to see if it's still recording, because that is what saved my ass last time. So yeah, I'm doing it. Everything's fine. Because the audio track is actually what didn't save the last time, or else I caught the video like just in time. It was literally 2 minutes after it stopped. It was like at the 18 mark. I was like, I should probably check that. And thankfully caught myself before continuing to yap. But I could have expanded on that, but my audio also didn't save. So it's okay. We're learning. See, we're learning. It's fine. Anyways, so yeah, the retrograde kicked my absolute ass. If I repeat things, at this point, I'm like, did I even say that in this take, or the last one, or the one before that, or the very first one? I don't know. But I guess I'll find out when I listen to it again. But this retrograde it kicked my ass, and I am always interested in talking with people about it, because I think it's really, I love that we collectively experience similar energies, and I think that's really fun. And even when it is chaotic and foggy and things are happening, like looking around and the people that you have in your life are also experiencing it and going through it, I don't know, there's something really disgustingly beautiful about it. And I feel that way about all pain and trauma. There's this like, when you're going through it with other people, or other people have experienced things that you are experiencing, there is this like beautiful human connection moment that's experienced in that. And I don't know, I do find beauty in a lot of those traumatic, painful moments. But yeah, it was crazy. I don't think I had a single clear thought the whole time. I felt like I was just walking around in a cloud. And coming out of it, I can kind of see why, but it was definitely like one of the hardest months of this year, solely because I also like felt very clear before going into it, and then I entered it, and it was like, when you hit like PMS week and you're like, have I ever been happy in my life at all? And you like forget that 2 days ago you were literally ecstatic and happy to be alive, but now all of a sudden you're like, did I ever even feel that way ever? So that, and then it was just like that for like a month and a half, and then you got to a point where you're like, is this really ever going to leave? Am I going to feel better? Is everything I've done actually not worth it? Am I ever going to do anything to amount to anything? I'm PMSing right now, can you tell? But I'm glad to be out of it. I am. And I was so in the fog of all of it. Did I even define what a Mercury retrograde is? Again, this is gonna be just kind of a funny, I don't know, we'll figure it out, we'll see as we go. But um the retrograde is a time of review and reflection and pause, and it's funny because there's the cliches that are cliches for a reason, of, technology failing and communication being horrendous and people reaching out and all of that, and it does happen. But there also is like a bigger picture very bigger picture. There is a bigger picture, um, too, when that happens, because you're just never fully out of your past. And I think that it's always a good time to kind of like sit and revisit things and see where, light can be shed so that you can easily move forward as much as you can. Um, so yeah, it affects everybody differently. But this one was, I would say, to look to your birth chart to see where it was actually happening. This one felt like it was just everywhere. It was like all 12. Right. Um but yeah, it's funny and it's over with, and it's been over with, so I'm not going to like heavily extend on that because I want to get into the energetic weather of what's happening right now. Which I do want to do in probably all of my podcasts because I love astrology so much and I do use it as an energetic tool. And it's fun. And it's fun to collectively talk about it because it's eclipse season. And eclipse season is my favorite time. And you might be saying that's a crazy statement. And it is. But I love chaos and I love karmic events. And historically, eclipses are very, very fated and karmic and often have been feared by a lot of different societies. But I love it. When I was first drawn to astrology, I was first drawn to eclipse work, and it's just kind of my area of fascination and just also where I can track the most change and growth in my own personal life. That's when I really see astrology in action for myself. And every eclipse season, it just kind of like really reaffirms the things that I, believe in and study, and I really get to watch it play out, and that is exciting. And I've tracked it for many years, and I mean, the most pivotal times of my life can be traced back to the exact patterns of eclipse season, which is also really cool. So I love it. And to kind of explain it, oh my God, I thought it stopped. Okay, my heart dropped. I don't want to get up and check my phone again, but I do because I'm scared. But I won't. I will have control. It's fine. Everything's fine. Anywho, I'm gonna check again. Gonna be a bitch, but that's. This chair was so expensive. There should be nothing breaking. Oh, you will be hearing from me. Okay. Anyways, hopefully nothing else breaks or stops, or maybe it's supposed to happen. Anyways, back to the eclipses. As I now explain for the fourth time, so eclipses happen in a series of 3. They happen over a period of a year and a half, and they are in opposite zodiac signs. So right now, the signs that we are in are Pisces and Virgo, which, for just a short explanation, can be kind of understood as flow and structure. Flow being Pisces, structure being Virgo, and we're kind of moving through this axis, of which the eclipses can kind of be on extreme ends. So it might feel like we're kind of riding this very emotional roller coaster, this wave, of going from like the very extreme points of Virgo, which are perfectionism and obsessiveness, and going to the extreme forms of Pisces, which are escapism and illusion and detachment from reality. So we're kind of going through this motion, and kind of learning how to walk the balance of that. And we're in the second series of it. The first Virgo eclipse happened in March. The first Pisces eclipse happened in September of last year. And now we're in the second series of that. And then there will be a third series in February. Just in case you are interested in it, you can look back at those times and kind of see like what themes were, going on? Is anything resurfacing? Is anything that you were kind of like putting to ground back then starting to maybe come to fruition or become more clear now? That's why I do give like dates, because I think it's fun to look back and be like, oh my gosh, wait, I see how that's kind of translating to now. Especially with eclipse season, because it does happen over like a year and a half, so we aren't super conscious of it all the time, but then I look back and I'm like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that was happening during that time. But yeah, so eclipse season's crazy. It's a fated, take your hands off of the wheel, let whatever happens need to happen. And I'm heavy in eclipse work around all of my astrology, because, was that even a sentence? My astrology work is heavily centered around the eclipses. That's much better. Because I like to really prepare myself for the eclipses so that when it does happen, I can confidently take my hands off of the wheel. Like this summer, I have done the most work I've ever done in my life, and I have never been more proud of myself. And I feel like I can definitely take my hands off of the wheel and be like, I know that I have been not hustling in a bad way, but just really on my shit and really doing what I need to do for myself and to line myself up for my path, because that's what like eclipse points are. They're destiny paths. You do have points in your chart that you were born under, and that is like your karmic life path, and that's why I'm so drawn to it. I'm obsessed with it. And so then when we're living it out in real time, they're like year and a half long periods of karmic events that help you walk your bigger karmic path, if that makes sense. So I love it. I think it's a really good time to like check in on where you're going and where you want to be going and what you don't want to be doing anymore, because the point of Virgo right now is in an area of release. So whatever area Virgo is in your life, that is where you're releasing and shedding and letting go and moving on from and detaching. And Pisces is in the position of what you're kind of growing more into and the things that you're trying to focus more on. So you're trying to flow more, you're trying to detach and allow yourself to, have more trust, have more faith, and not be so structured and grippy. And this is already translating into what I, want to talk about. But when I talk about zodiac signs too, I talk about them in the form of energies, because I'm not like a modern astrologer in the sense where I'm like, well, you are a Virgo, you are a Gemini, you are a Leo. That's your sun placement. Everybody has an entire birth chart of so many different energies interacting with things and planets and different placements, and no one is just definable by one position, even though it's the most known position and it's a beautiful position. The sun is your warmth and your vitality, and it's often what people do see about you. So like if you are a Gemini sun, that probably does come across more than other areas of your chart, but that is not the full essence of who you are. So, and everybody has every single energy in their chart, and it is interacting with something in some way. So everybody has Pisces and Virgo in their chart somewhere, somehow, and it's interacting with everything. So when I talk about Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, these things, they're energies, and they're not you, and it doesn't encompass all of you. So because I have a very strong Virgo placement in a very deep, dark, intimate place that is a fun placement to have. Every sign has a light and a shadow. And unfortunately, there are particular signs that are a little bit known for their shadow more so than their light. Virgo is one of them. And I really and this is coming from a Gemini, I feel like Virgo is probably the sign that I think Gemini gets the most, I don't like that sign from other people. Virgo is the sign where if you are a Virgo sun or have a Virgo placement, you're like, I hate it. I hate that part about myself. I don't want that to be my sun. I don't want that to be my moon, because I also say that. And so that's what I notice about Virgo, the self-critical shadow. So that makes sense. But it's really interesting. And so the shadow side of that is really popping up heavily in my reality right now. And it's literally what I wanted to talk about, which is perfectionism and not letting yourself be a beginner, because that is such a heavy shadow to be in. And even if you don't have a prominent Virgo placement, like that's just describing an energy that everybody experiences. Everybody experiences that to some degree. Now, if you have, a heavy Virgo placement, then you're going to feel that a lot more strongly. And you might feel like that's more of like your defining personality. I definitely do. Let me look. I started writing things down so that I don't get off topic. Especially now that I don't even know what I've said and what I haven't. So I'm just going to like kind of look and see if I've even covered what I want to cover. I don't know if I like really talked about the eclipses as much as I wanted to. I think that I have. Just take your hands off the wheel. Just sleep and nourish your body and drink water, and literally don't overthink anything and don't force anything for like the next month. Just let it be. Let it be as best as you possibly fucking can. And I know that that's a really hard thing to do, but like, just take your hands off the wheel. If you're interested, look at your birth chart and see where it is, like in your actual, reality, because your birth chart, the houses, those areas show where it's actually kind of playing out for you, so you can kind of get a better gauge of where this is actually happening. But overall, just like take a nap, enjoy what you've done this summer, and like even just have fun, just like relax, don't take anything too seriously. Shit will probably explode. Let it. That's okay. It's fated. Everything's good. Yeah, so that transitioned me into talking about perfectionism and being a beginner, because I am at a point in my life where I'm beginning a lot of things. Especially at the beginning of the summer, I felt like I was a beginner in every single aspect of my entire life. Every aspect, I felt like I was brand new. I felt like I was starting things and I had no grounding in anything, and also like no confidence yet, because I was just brand new at absolutely everything that I was doing. And I'm learning now that you can have confidence in the beginning. It was really hard too, because I don't like not knowing what I'm doing. I don't like messing up. I don't like looking like an idiot. And it stopped me from doing a lot of things, which is not fun. And I finally reached a point not too long ago where I was like, I refuse to hold myself back from doing things because I'm afraid of being a beginner, because being a beginner means that you don't know anything and that you have to learn. And to learn, you have to mess up, you have to do things wrong, you have to ask questions, you have to, spend more time on things that are not going to come naturally because you're learning them. Like, and I love learning things like reading and knowledge, but when it comes to like real life experience and actually learning things, especially things that I have to learn in front of other people and like make me show up and be seen, and making the mistakes for other people to see, it's horrifying to me, and I'm learning to love it, and I feel like I'm able to actually dive into that now. But it was something that it held me back for so long. And like growing up, I think that there were a lot of things that I really wanted to do. I mean, YouTube has been a part of my life for forever, and that's all I used to watch. I barely watched TV. I watched YouTube, but there was a time where I had to stop watching it because it would only make me depressed, because I was like, I will never, ever have the confidence to do something like that. And I'll never have the confidence to like put myself out there. And so it just got to the point where it was really sad. And I couldn't watch other people do that, because I was like, that's something I want to do so badly and I can't do it. So there was a time period where I couldn't even watch YouTube or like listen to podcasts or do things that like really focused on somebody putting themselves out there, because I was so horrified. And like, it is not an isolated experience that when you're in middle school and high school, if you put yourself out there in any way, shape, or form, like people are going to shit on you. That is just, I understand that. I'm not an isolated incident with that. But it was hard, because there were a lot of things that I really wanted to do. And if I watched somebody else step out of a box and get shit on, I was like, I'm going to stay right here. I feel like I'm the opposite of that person now, which is really good. But back then I was just like, nope. I did not like, anything that made me feel like an outcast in any way, shape, or form. So, there was just a lot of things that I wanted to do. And I would never let myself be a beginner because I was just so afraid of messing up and looking like an idiot, or my perfectionism just wanted me to be perfect on the very first try, or be that person that could easily pick up everything and never had to try, and it was just so natural for them, and that is so unrealistic. But it's true. That's what I like thought I had to be. And I don't really think I ever, like, my parents didn't instill that in me. That was just something I was born with. That was just something that I was like, I just pushed myself really hard, and I pushed myself to be perfect. And I like, even with grades and things like that, like I was not pushed like to feel that way. I pushed myself. And so I was just inherently wired to do that. And, we're breaking past that. And I'm happy to be doing that, because one of the biggest things that I wanted to do growing up, I watched, every Tuesday, my mom and I sat down and we watched Dance Moms for like however long, that 5-6 years, like we watched it religiously, and it was our favorite show in the entire world. And granted, like, it's the extreme end of the dance world, but I was obsessed with it. And I was partially kind of in that, like, I did gymnastics and I did cheer my whole life, but there was something about dance, even in the middle of the chaotic world I was watching, that I was so obsessed with. Like, I wanted to do it so badly, but I was so terrified to be a beginner in any sense, because by the time I realized this, I was probably 12 or 13, which this is the saddest thing in the entire world, but I was like, it's too late, because there's people who have been dancing since they were 4, and then I'm going to start taking classes with them, and I'm from a small town, so it's like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be 6 years behind everybody else, and that sounds like something that I don't want to do, because that sounds embarrassing. And then that's another thing for people to like pick on me for. So I just did not ever want to do that. And I let a lot of years go by where I just like, would see people doing things that I wanted to do, and I would just get so jealous and so just depressed, because I was like, I just wish that I had the confidence to do what I wanted to do, and not even like anything in this huge big sense to like do for the rest of my life or become really famous, but just to do them and have fun. That's the saddest part, is that a lot of it was just something I wanted to do for fun and never let myself pursue it. But all of that to say, I grew up and became an adult, and then one day I was like, hey, I could just do whatever I want. I could just sign up for a dance class. Crazy. And so I did. And now I go to dance class on Tuesdays, and it is the best time. I have not felt that way since like going to sports as a kid. Like, the excitement that I get, and like it feels like going to sports as a kid, and it feels so like so exciting. Like, I went the other day and I was having a really shitty foggy day. I wasn't feeling good, and then it was just like I looked at the clock and I was like, oop, time for class. Like, I'm treating it like it's a sport that I can't not go to because I signed up for it and I made a commitment. And like I immediately got there, and like I unplug and I get to be in the moment, and I'm surrounded by people I don't even know, which is the best part. And it's so freeing, and I get to like be a different person while I'm there. And I just, if younger me saw that, she would just be so happy, and just taking the weight off of like, I don't know, I put so much weight on so many things that were supposed to be fun when I was growing up. Like, I went to an open gym a few years ago and tumbled for the first time, and I could throw passes that I couldn't even throw when I was literally doing it multiple times a week, because I wasn't in my head about it anymore. I was like, I don't have the high school drama stress of whatever the fuck was created with all those stories, but it was just like, this is just fun. Like, I'm here, and I could do things that I couldn't even do when I was regularly trained in it, which is crazy. But it's like removing that pressure and being like, wait, I can just have fun, and I don't have to be so afraid to be a beginner. Like, this is fun. I'm having a good time. Have I convinced you? But this is fun, and things are supposed to be fun. We're supposed to have a good time while we're here, and this life is life, and I swear to God, I have got to have a good time doing it. And if I can't do the small little things that make me happy, you know? Like, it's so, you just gotta do shit. And I'm speaking to myself. Like, I just have held myself back in a lot of ways. And I think that the perfectionism really is the culprit of all of it, which is really why I wanted to talk about Virgo and the shadow side of it, because that's my moon. That's like my inner world. That's my emotions and the things that I feel. And I have just lived in a world of inner critic for so long, and I'm choosing to just not live in the shadow side of that anymore, because it has really limited me. And I think it's limited a lot of people. I mean, perfectionism is not, it's not just me. That's why I wanted to talk about it. But it's, I'm learning how to navigate being a beginner at things, and not just hobbies, but beginner in new phases of life as well. And like living on my own for the first time, and being very easy and compassionate with myself when my routine for the first 2 months of living by myself isn't as perfect as it used to be. And I'm learning literally a completely new way of life, and I'm adjusting to new things, and not being hard on myself if my routines have to change a little bit, because literally a different phase of my life is completely coming up and I'm having to adjust to that. So just being less hard on myself in general is just the whole entire theme of this. And it's also important for me to talk about this as I'm doing things, because yeah, you know, that look like a spider. There's the part of me that's like, well, I wish that I could just start doing what I want to do and putting myself out there and never have to explain myself, or, just immediately be perfect at it and never have to. But like, one, that's unrealistic as hell. And two, that's also boring. Like, I I love hearing like people's come up stories. I love hearing the whole explanation and the hustle in a good way of like, Chaperone being like, I busted my ass for 9 years until anyone gave a fuck about me. Like, that is so important to hear and not hide, because I think sometimes it looks like people just start doing things and they have this confidence and they have this following, or they have whatever. And it just looks like they were always confident and always had that. And that's just not the case in anybody's life. So I do think it's like important to talk about, because coming on here, I don't want to just come on here and act like this isn't something that has taken years of like shadow work and confidence building to be able to come on and do. Because no, I don't. But, part of me used to wish that I could be 12 years old and be like, oh my God, I just want to start posting on YouTube and be there and do that. And I did post like small things here and there, and I had my blog and I had other things, but like consistently doing something and showing up and like being a presence online for people to see is not something that I've done, but it's something that I have always wanted to do. And it's taken me fighting my own demons to get there. It's not like I just woke up one day and was like, okay, like I just really want to do that. And it's so easy, and it comes naturally, and I'm just very confident. Like, I feel way more confident in it now, but it has taken a lot of work with myself to get through that. And I think that that's important to share, I guess, is my point of all of that. Talked a lot about astrology. That definitely, I'm now realizing, is probably going to be a thing for me. I love it, and I love explaining it in my own terms, because I feel like modern astrology has really taken over. And don't get me wrong, I do love a good meme, and I love the funny Mercury retrograde stuff that resurfaces, and like, there are cliches for a reason, but there also is so much history and study and depth to this language. And it's not just horoscopes or like funny little things that you see all the time, even though, again, I love that. But there's so much to it, and I love it. And I think that it is honestly, genuinely, other than like therapy, the best self-reflection tool I have ever had in my whole entire life. What am I at right now? I don't need to be yapping for more than like 40 minutes. Okay, I'm almost at 40 minutes. But, and I'll expand on this more, but it is the most influential thing I have ever discovered, because it's not the things that I've read that have told me you have this means this. It's like, okay, well, if I do read something that says that I am this type of person or this type of way, that causes me to go inward. And I'm like, do I really feel like that? If yes, then why? If no, then why? And so it always leads to questioning yourself and, inner work. And I don't think that any tool like that can ever really lead you astray. I do think you can, like, kind of follow it a little too closely and take it a little too seriously and, lose a little bit of your kind of like free will and ability to like not be controlled by what's going on. Because, like, for example, the Mercury retrograde did not stop me from posting the podcast when I did. I looked at that and I was like, I could still do that, but it's going to kind of be a little more of a pain in the ass than I want it to be. I might hit roadblocks that I don't fully know how to navigate just yet. It might push me back on some things. I might post some stuff that I don't want, or like that later I look back and I'm like, so it doesn't control you. It doesn't stop you from doing anything. But then when you kind of study the energy, you get to look at it and be like, okay, I could, or I could kind of flow with it a little bit more. And, in the middle of it, if I am feeling called to post a podcast, I can, and nothing's going to stop me from doing that. But it is just a really interesting thing to look at. And I've planned a lot of things around it, and it has worked out in my favor. So it's just a very interesting tool as like a collective energy, like with what's going on right now, the eclipses and astrology, or the eclipses and the retrogrades and things. But then also like looking at your own birth chart, which is where I actually like truly feel like my love lies. And that is like as a self-reflection tool and learning more about yourself and just your expression as a human. So I will get into all sorts of fun things about, the astrology that's happening and the zodiac signs and all of that, because I have learned during my hiatus that it is something that I'm very passionate about, and that just naturally comes up in my conversation no matter what. So I don't think I can really have a podcast and show up and talk about topics and things without explaining the astrological side of things or the energies that I'm feeling. And it, like perfectionism is very, I can sit and talk about it, but it feels more natural to relate that to the sign of Virgo, because also when you do that, there also is a light side of Virgo, which, that's what I'm going to do. That's the last thing I'll do, and then I'll shut up. So I was reading, and I'll link her Substack below because I love her writing, but I was reading this description of Virgo the other day that she wrote, and it was so beautiful because, like I said, I feel like that is one of the signs. I mean, it is the self-critical sign, and that people who have heavy Virgo placements it's really hard for them to see the light in it. They're just like, the light side of Virgo is, oh, well, they're really good at, analyzing things and being organized and being methodical and planning. And everybody's like, so that's my sun? Like, that's boring, and nobody, it seems like, loves that. And that is such a generic description, but that's like what modern times kind of describe as Virgo's light or whatever, or service to others, which, yes, but when you just say service to others without explaining where that comes from, it kind of just is like, so I'm supposed to like organize and help other people, and that's my purpose. So I read this and I was like, this is beautiful. I need to share. So first she like she explains it in like a time, because they're obviously time periods throughout the year and throughout the seasons. And Virgo represents a time of harvesting and preparing for the winter. It's like right after Leo's season, like the peak of summer, and it's right before we like kind of enter fall and start doing all of that. So it's like the preparation period of like, okay, let's start thinking ahead. Let's start looking at winter. What are we going to need? What do we need to harvest during the fall so that we are prepared for winter? Which I just love that, because I love the seasons, and since moving somewhere that has seasons, and my winter actually gets to really be like that dormant, silent, isolated kind of time period that it's supposed to be, and I'm not in like 80-degree weather, I value the seasons even more and preparation for that, because historically, like, now we're not actually having to harvest food and like really be prepared, or else we're gonna die. But in the sense of like energetically, yeah, we rest and we go inward, and it's a time that we kind of want, kind of like eclipse season, I want my ducks in a row and I want my shit accomplished and I want to be prepared so that I can rest peacefully. And that's Virgo. um Virgo is possessed of the skills and knowledge to guide us from the joy of abundance to the comfort of knowing that we can be properly nourished in the future. Love. And the symbol of Virgo is a virgin, which of course people are like, what the fuck? So virgin historically meant somebody who is self-possessed, as they should be. But being a virgin is an archetypal expression of being onto oneself. Therefore, Virgo is about integrity to the self. She is the one who knows her own intellectual, psychic, magical, and somatic essence so well that no one can enter her garden and render change there. Are you fucking kidding me? I love that. Like it's like this beautiful, like, earth herbal goddess of just preparation. And I love that description because I feel like Virgo is often described as like, yeah, well, like a lot of their purpose is like service to others and helping others. And I don't love service to others without kind of the explanation of like, she's so secure in herself and so prepared and grounded and fully in herself that she just naturally is able to extend that service to others. It's not like she gives her life away and gives from an empty cup, but it's more of she's so grounded and centered in herself that it's just so effortless to be of service to others. And the word service is also something that's, a little interesting, but just able to expand her gifts and her knowledge and her wisdom and her preparation for the future. And I don't know, something about that. I just really loved that, because Virgo really gets some slander, and to kind of see it as that picture, I don't know, it's just really beautiful. I'll leave you guys with that. Ooh, I can speak words. I'll leave you guys with that, and hopefully everything on my phone is still recording because I got lost and haven't checked. But yeah, hopefully this is the last take and I'm like delirious at this point. And I really like that I'm talking about being a beginner and things not being perfect, and this whole thing was just like a shit storm of that actual reality. But yeah, so happy eclipse. I will be posting regularly now, once a week, so it looks like Fridays will be the days, which is kind of exciting. I was always thinking it would be like a Tuesday or Thursday, but Friday seems right for some reason, so I'm gonna roll with it for now unless I decide to change it, which I can do whatever I want. Yeah, so thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. This is the first of many, so happy eclipse season. Let me know how you're feeling. Reach out to me about the stars. Reach out to me about quite literally anything that I have said, and I would love to connect with you about it. So until next time. How do you end these things? I still have got to learn that. I don't know. I'll figure out something better, but cheers.